Usually when I have a guest on, I have like an article they've written or some detail on some, whatever that they're going on about. David Rehr is with us. His website, davidrehr.com. He's a media politics and business professor at George Washington University and former president of the NAB. And David, all I've got from you is Thom is completely wrong. What am I wrong about?
No, I guess, Thom, we were going to talk about the Reagan legacy and how the Reagan legacy is a precursor for what's happening in our economy and our country today, at least.
Okay. My assertion that 32 years of Reaganomics have devastated the millennial generation.
Right.
Okay. So are the millennial generation not being screwed?
Well, actually, they're not.
They've got it as good as I had it when I was 19, 20 years old. There was a strong job market. I could get a health insurance for $30 a month. I could go to college for virtually free in pretty much anywhere in the United States. In fact, in California and several other places in the country, you could go to college for totally free. They've got that?
Well, they don't, but that's not really a result.
But Reagan did away with all that stuff.
Reagan legacy.
Of course it is. Reagan ended free college education in California, and then when he went into the federal government, put Bill Bennett in charge of the Department of Education, put in place policies. When Reagan came into office, 81% of all college tuitions in the United States were paid for by state or federal governments, county governments, or the colleges themselves, and only 19% was paid for by the students of tuition, the cost of going to college. Right. Today, 21% of college tuition is paid for by state, federal governments, or colleges, and 79% is paid for by the students. We've seen this explosion in college tuition. This is a direct result of policies that Reagan put into place. Just to choose one example.
Well, no, I think that is really misguided, Thom. I mean, I want to be respectful, but the cost of college has gone up dramatically for a whole host of reasons.
It has not.
And you could argue that a government-subsidized tuition has actually dramatically increased the cost of college.
I have heard that argument, and I consider it nonsense. I mean, you could try and make that argument for me, but the fact of the matter is that right now, government is spending the government used to pay 4/5. Is it 4/5? 80, 20.
Yeah, about 4/5.
Yeah, it used to pay 4/5 of the cost of education, and now it only pays 1/5 of the cost of education, which means that students used to pay 1/5. I remember going to college, Michigan State University and Lansing Community College back in Michigan, back in the 60s, in the late 60s, and actually it was just the late 60s. And my annual tuition was like $200. And because most of it was being paid for by the government.
Right.
Now you try to go to Michigan State University, your annual tuition is going to be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000. I haven't looked, but it's going to be somewhere in that neighborhood, I would guess.
The college has gotten a lot more expensive, but there are a lot of reasons for that, and the reason is not because we are subsidizing.
But MSU still has the same buildings, they still have the same maintenance, they still have the same overhead, they're paying their professors relatively the same. The presidents of the universities are making a little more, but not massively. It's not like they're making money like banksters.
Michigan's probably paying more.
I beg your pardon?
Student sports programs, which are being subsidized by students, are probably being paid more.
Actually, I think the student sports programs are generating more money because of the television revenues. Right. It's one of the things that's actually held down college tuition.
Well, let's talk about jobs and economic growth.
Okay.
During President Reagan, we had unsustained years of economic growth. We created 35 million jobs. Right,
because Reagan used John Maynard Keynes's economics and borrowed. Tripled the national debt. See, he borrowed and spent more money than every president from George Washington to Jimmy Carter combined.
Right.
And all that spending really brilliantly stimulated the economy.
Right. I do think as an economist, you misunderstand John Maynard Keynes. President Reagan cut taxes, which created economic wealth and capital formation, creating jobs.
No.
He reduced.
Wait a minute. Stop right there. How does
free trade across the country, which created more global commerce?
Let's take these one at a time, okay?
Right.
How if you cut taxes on really wealthy people? Nick Hanauer was on this program the other day. He makes $20 million a year.
Right.
And one of the original investors in Amazon, and he's like, he pays 11% tax rate, as I recall, maybe 12%. And he's like, you cut my taxes, and that's just more money that, I put in a Swiss bank account or I dump into the stock market. Dumping money into the stock market does not give that money to companies. It does not create jobs. It makes money for banksters, but it does not create jobs. He says, I'm not a job creator. The middle class buying things. He owns a company that makes pillows.
Right.
And he said, the problem we have right now is that middle class people used to buy new pillows every 6 months, and now they're doing it every year, or words to that effect.
Right,
you know?
right. Well, he could also, with his dollars donate, he could invest in small businesses, which create 2/3 of the jobs.
But they don't.
A lot of things he could do. Other
most
than
small businesses are started by
his taxes cut. Because there are about 14 million small business people who pay a 1040 every year. Who, if taxes go up, they can't afford to pay their employees more money.
That's not true. That's not true. I'm one of those people, David.
Well,
I am one of those people.
I have a company, and you raise taxes, you take less money from me.
Only if you're profitable.
What's that?
Only if you're profitable, and if you have a genuine small business, you know at the end of the year that that's the time that you pay yourself a bonus, you decide to buy some new equipment, you
take all the risk.
Of course you take all the risk, but you can also keep your company at zero profit. 99% of all the companies, all the corporations in this country earn no profit and pay no taxes. And the reason why is because all these small businesses do what I just described. And when Republicans say, oh, we've got to cut taxes on rich people because of small business, that's nonsense.
So when the Joint Economic Committee says that Reagan had the longest peacetime economic expansion of the country, they're incorrect.
No, that's what happens when you borrow trillions of dollars in today's dollars and spend it into the economy. Sure.
President Obama is borrowing trillions of dollars right now. Why don't we have
cut? Actually, no. There's been there are 800,000 fewer government workers today than there were the day that Obama first came into office. He has cut spending. The budget deficit has been cut in half just in the last 2 years. And overall government spending, both at the federal and state levels, has declined over the last 5 years. Whereas under Reagan, it exploded.
Total federal debt has skyrocketed. How do you explain that?
Iraq and Afghanistan. $6 trillion total cost between those two wars.
All of the debt is all about Iraq and Afghanistan.
I think probably, Iraq, Afghanistan, and the giant crash that was brought about in 2008, which wiped out the earnings of the middle class, who pay a substantial amount of the tax load.
Well, actually, they pay less taxes today than they did when Reagan was president. And that was because Reagan cut their taxes.
Reagan doubled their... For somebody who makes $10,000 a year...
Because of all of the changes made, which Reagan precipitated.
David, if somebody makes $10,000 a year today, and they made $10,000 a year when Reagan came into office...
They didn't pay any taxes when Reagan was in office. They don't pay any taxes today.
Wait a minute. They pay no Social Security tax?
Well, they might pay Social Security tax.
Okay, so they pay that tax. They pay the payroll tax, and the payroll tax doubled under Reagan, right?
In their future.
And the payroll tax doubled under Reagan. So Reagan doubled the taxes on people who pay $10,000 a year. He cut taxes on the Koch brothers, on people who make millions of dollars a year or billions of dollars.
Well, he cut taxes on almost everyone.
Yeah, but the big impact was at the top.
Well, that's because they pay more.
Well, of course, and they should. And that's why we need to roll back the Reagan tax cuts and go back to the great prosperity that we had the 50s, 60s, 70s, and early 80s.
That would be in 1979 when we had the misery index, when people couldn't buy homes and they couldn't borrow money. And
it was nothing compared to today. It was nothing compared to, we were then, in 79, that misery index, we were comparing that to 30 years of incredible prosperity that was a result of a top tax rate being solidly above 50%.
Right, so John Kennedy was wrong when he cut taxes in the 60s?
He actually didn't do that. Lyndon Johnson did. John Kennedy proposed it, and we're out of time, or I'd play the clip for you. But Kennedy said he was going to actually raise taxes on the wealthy by
all boats.
Only if you have a yacht.
Reagan got the idea from Kennedy.
Okay. David, I'll leave you with the last word. Dr. David Rehr, R-E-H-R. DavidREHR.com is the website. Thanks for dropping by, David.
Thanks for having me.
Good talk.